His textbooks lay open, but he couldn't focus on a single word. His mind was heavy, cluttered, desperate. The eviction notice pinned to his wall glared at him like an accusation. He was 24, a final-year medical student who once dreamed of becoming a surgeon. Now, those dreams were fading faster than the light in his room. His scholarship had expired, his father's business had gone bankrupt, and his part-time tutoring job barely covered his meals. He hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. His stomach growled, but hunger wasn't his biggest problem. Hopelessness was. Across the small table sat his roommate, Imran, chewing a stale with an expression that was half pity, half practicality. "You can't fight the system, Yar," Imran said between bites. And fast. "And I told you, she's your only option." Adeel looked up, his tired eyes narrowing. Imran nodded slowly. "Madam Zubeida Rahman, the old millionaire. Everyone in Karachi knows her. No kids, no family, no one close. But she helps peoples, artists, charities. She sponsored 3 boys from our university last year." Adeel rubbed his temples. "You think she'll just hand over money 'cause I'm broke?" Imran smirked. "She's different. Rumors say she likes company." "Real company," Adeel frowned. "What are you talking about?" Imran leaned closer, lowering his voice. "There was this guy, a painter. He lived in her house for a few months. As her assistant, he left rich, drove out in a new car. No one knows what really happened, but—" He paused, raising his eyebrows meaningfully. "She's lonely. You're good-looking, smart, polite. If you play it right, maybe you'll walk away rich too." The words hit Adeel like a slap. He hated the thought. It felt wrong, demeaning. But the gnawing emptiness in his stomach and the growing pile of bills were louder than his pride. That night, he couldn't sleep. Every creak of the old dorm walls reminded him how fragile his life had become. He thought of his mother's trembling voice on the phone, apologizing for not being able to send money. He thought of the landlord's threats, the tuition deadlines, and his final exams waiting just weeks away. When dawn crept through the curtains, Adeel made a decision that would change his life forever. The next evening, he stood at the gates of Rahman Villa, a sprawling estate that seemed to belong in another century. Its iron gates were tall, painted black with golden initials carved into the metal ZR. Behind them stretched a long driveway lined with marble statues, fountains and trees heavy with rainwater. The mansion itself loomed like a stone and glass, glowing faintly under the stormy sky. Adeel felt small, out of place, his worn shoes sinking into the wet gravel as a guard opened the gate and motioned him in. Inside, everything gleamed. Crystal chandeliers glittered above polished floors that reflected his uncertain face. Paintings of long-dead nobles stared down from the walls, and the air smelled faintly of roses. And something metallic underneath. A maid in uniform led him to a grand sitting room. "Madam will join you shortly," she said softly, and disappeared. Adeel sat on the edge of an ornate sofa, his heart pounding. He looked around. The furniture was antique, the carpets thick and foreign. There were photographs on the side table. A much younger woman in a wedding gown, a man beside her with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Then, the same woman standing alone in front of a hospital, holding a newspaper that read Rahman Group expands to Europe. He was still studying the photos when he heard the soft click of heels behind him. "Mr. Adeel," a calm voice said. He turned, and there she was. Zubeida Rahman. She was not what he expected. At 71, she looked regal, not fragile. Her posture was straight, her eyes sharp. Her silver hair was tied neatly into a bun, and her lips were painted a subtle shade of wine. A long velvet gown wrapped her figure, and the faint scent of sandalwood followed her like a shadow. "Madam," Adeel stammered, standing quickly. "I came because—" She raised a hand, silencing him. "You came because you're desperate." The bluntness of her words made him flinch. "I read your application," she continued, taking a seat opposite him. "Your grades are exceptional. Your background tragic. You remind me of my late husband. Brilliant, but too proud to ask for help until it was too late." Adeel swallowed hard, unsure how to respond. She gestured for him to sit. "Tell me," she said softly. "What would you do if I gave you enough money to finish your education? To live comfortably?" He hesitated. "I'd start a clinic in my hometown. Help people who can't afford treatment." Zubeida smiled faintly. "A noble answer. But tell me the truth, Adeel. If I handed you 10 million rupees tonight, what would you really do?" He met her gaze and said nothing. Her eyes sparkled, amused. "That's what I thought. You're still learning to be honest. Even with yourself." As she stood and walked toward the window, watching the rain streak down the glass. "I've had many people ask me for help, Mr. Adeel. All of them wanted my money. None of them wanted me." Adeel frowned, not understanding. She turned back to him, her voice softer now. "I'm old, Adeel. Older than I like to admit. I've built empires, donated to hospitals, funded lives. But when night falls, this house feels like a tomb. The walls listen, but they never speak back. The room fell silent except for the ticking of a gold clock on the mantel. Zubeida walked closer, her eyes never leaving his. You want security. I want companionship. Let's not pretend to be sapes. He blinked. Companionship. Her lips curved into a thin smile. Marry me. The word hung in the air like smoke. Adeel's breath caught. Marry you. She nodded. Legally. Publicly. My lawyer can arrange everything by tomorrow. You'll have a home, money, status. In return, you'll hear me. I'm not asking for love, only presence. He stared at her, unable to speak. The idea was absurd. A 71-year-old millionaire and a penniless student. It sounded like a headline from a scandal sheet. Zubeida watched him calmly, then said, You have two choices. Walk out of this house and return to hunger and debt, or stay, and never worry again. The clock ticked louder, the rain intensified outside. Adeel squealed at every rational thought screamed no, but another voice. The quiet, frightened voice of survival, yes. He finally whispered, For me, the first time. Zubeida's expression softened. Because when you look at me, you don't see money, you see mystery. That's rare. She extended her hand, pale and delicate. So, Mr. Adeel, do we have an understanding? He hesitated, staring at her hand. Then slowly, almost mechanically, he took it. Her skin was cold, unnaturally cold, but her grip was strong. That night, Adeel signed the papers. 2 days later, the newspapers screamed the headline, or Student Marries 71, Yer, Ulti Millionaire. Cameras flashed and reporters shouted. Adeel forced a smile and whispered to himself, Just a few days. Then I'll disappear. He didn't know that the mansion had already swallowed him whole. The 7th day after the wedding began in silence, the kind that presses on your chest and makes the air feel thick. Adeel woke up in the massive 4-poster bed, surrounded by sheets that smelled faintly of lavender and something he could never quite identify, a scent that reminded him of old hospitals. The mansion was unusually quiet. Normally, servants moved like whispers through the hallways, tending to the endless routines of Madame Zubeida's world. Polishing, dusting, bringing tea. But today the corridors were empty. It was Saturday, and she had given the staff a rare weekend off. We need privacy, she had said the night before, her voice calm and deliberate. Adeel didn't ask why. He rarely asked anything anymore. 7 days had passed since the wedding, and each one had been stranger than the last. Zubeida was kind, polite, almost gentle, but something about her rhythm unsettled him. She followed strict routines. She only ate at 8 p.m., only walked in the West Garden, and locked herself in her study every night until midnight. Sometimes, when he woke late at night, he heard faint humming coming from behind that study door. A mechanical hum, steady and cold. He had tried not to think too much about it. He told himself he would endure for another week or two, then quietly leave with enough money to rebuild his life. She had already added him to her accounts, gifted him expensive suits, and even called him, my dear husband, in front of a few society guests. Everyone saw a fairy tale. A poor man rescued from ruin by an old, lonely queen. But Adeel couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. That morning, he wandered through the halls, trying to find her. The rain had returned, falling in soft, endless sheets against the tall glass windows. The air smelled faintly metallic. He passed a long corridor lined with portraits. Zubeida in her youth, beautiful and severe, standing beside her late husband, an industrialist whose smile never reached his eyes. In the next picture, she stood alone, older, dressed in black. He paused at the end of the hall, where a door stood half open. The forbidden one. It was her study. He hesitated. She had told him never to enter that room. There are things in there that would confuse you, she'd said with that faint, secret smile. But curiosity, mixed with unease, had been eating at him for days, and now, with no servants and no sound except the rain, the silence felt like permission. He stepped inside. The room was large, lined with dark mahogany shelves. The air was cold, unnaturally so, as if the temperature dropped just for that space. The curtains were drawn, but faint light seeped through, falling on a massive desk cluttered with papers, files, and glass vials. A faint humming came from a machine in the corner. Metallic, steady, clinical. Adeel approached the desk. His heartbeat echoed in the quiet. There were medical files spread out neatly, each with a red seal and a name typed across the front. He picked up the first one. It was labeled, Hassan Ali, subject to 19. Inside were pages of lab results, blood charts, written in elegant handwriting. The details sent a chill through him. Liver extraction successful. Subject after 72 hours, replacement failed. Contamination risk file. He flipped to the next funny. Samir Khan. The same notes. Organ extractions. Failed replacements. Experiments. His hands shook as he reached for another file at the bottom of the stack. This one was newer, its seal freshly broken. He froze. The name printed in bold at the top was Adeel Ahmed. His throat tightened. The file contained his photograph, one from his university ID. Below it, lines of data hype, genetic compatibility scores. The words blurred as he read subject 21, compatible donor. Procedure scheduled, October E. His stomach dropped. Today was October 7. He stumbled back from the desk breathing hard. 1,000 thoughts crashed in his mind, each more horrifying than the last. He looked around the room. Suddenly every detail seemed sinister. The humming machine in the corner. The metallic scent. The thick curtains hiding something behind them. He forced himself forward and yanked the curtains open. Behind them stood a tall refrigerated cabinet made of glass and steel. It was humming faintly. Inside, arranged with surgical precision, were jars filled with preserved organs, hearts, kidneys, livers, each labeled with names and dates, some of them recent. Adeel's hand flew to his mouth. His knees nearly gave out. He stumbled backward, hitting the desk, papers scattered to the floor. And then a voice, calm, familiar, too close. I told you that room was off limits. Adeel turned slowly. Zubeida stood in the doorway, wearing a white silk robe. Her silver hair gleamed under the dim light, but it wasn't her usual poise that froze him. It was her eyes. They weren't angry. They were scent tender. I didn't mean to, he stammered, but she raised a hand. It's all right, she said softly, stepping into the room. You had to find out eventually. He backed away. What is this? What are you doing? She smiled faintly. You've already guessed. I've been preparing for this for years. My heart is failing, Adeel. My body is giving up, but my mind is as sharp as ever. I refuse to let death take me so easily. He stared at her, horror flooding his veins. You've been using people. Don't say it like that, she whispered, her tone calm, almost motherly. They were volunteers. Poor souls like you, desperate, forgotten by the world. I gave them shelter, food, comfort. And in return, they gave me a chance to keep living. Adeel shook his head, stepping back. Zubeida's expression softened. You think so? Tell me, Adeel, did you marry me for love? He froze. The question sliced through him like a blade. I know why you came, she said quietly. You needed money. You would have left as soon as I gave it. Don't pretend to be noble now. You wanted to use me. Just as I planned to use you. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were bright with something that looked like grief. Why me? He whispered. She took another step forward. Because you're compatible. The perfect match. Young, healthy, rare blood type. My doctors confirmed it before we even met. Adeel's skin went cold. His mind raced for an escape, but his body felt paralyzed. He glanced toward the door. It was closed behind her. Please, he managed. You don't have to do this. Zubeida's smile was sad. You think I enjoy it? I've buried 3 husbands, all dead before their time. I watched my beauty fade. My friends die, my empire crumble into the hands of people who never again to breathe again. With a heart that still remembers what it means to love, she reached out, touching his cheek gently. Her hand was cold, lifeless. Tomorrow, she whispered, it will all be over. You'll be gone, but a part of you will live on. Inside me. He slapped her hand away, backing toward the desk. You're sick? Her expression didn't change. Perhaps. But at least I admit it. She pressed a button on the wall. The soft hum of machinery filled the room, and a metallic door slid open beside the cabinet. Inside, Adeel glimpsed a surgical table gleaming under harsh white lights. Stainless steel instruments lay neatly arranged beside it. He ran for the door, but before he could reach it, something sharp pricked his neck. He spun around. The maid, the one he thought had left for the weekend, stood behind him holding a syringe. His vision blurred instantly. Zubeida's voice faded in and out as he stumbled to the floor. Don't be afraid, my dear, she murmured. Fitz, just sleep. The last thing he saw before darkness swallowed him was a reflection in the glass. Bright, alive, filled with hope. And then nothing. Only the hum of the machines. Steady waiting.